Okay then, we're ready to start French polishing. So let me just run through a few things for you. Okay, so the polish I like to use is this Liberon Special Power Polish. Doesn't seem to have any colour to it, so I particularly like that. And I've just dispensed some into a small jar. So you can put that out of the way. As a solvent or a thinner, use methylated spirits. Although it's purple in colour, it doesn't affect the polish at all. If you're in the States watching this, you know this is the UK alternative to the alcohol that you'll be using. There are legal reasons why we use this in the UK. So that's that. Some cotton waste and a piece of clean white, in this case it's an old sheet, to make up a pad to apply the polish. I tend to make up very small pads simply because I throw them away a lot, and I just use a syringe to get the polish out and put it into the pad ready to start polishing. And one of the big changes from my polishing technique is that for these first stages I don't dilute this. I used to dilute it 50-50 with the methylated spirits. Now I just use it neat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the front first, because I want to get that sealed up so that it keeps clean, doesn't get contaminated. So we've got a bit of polish on the pad, and we just do this. Gradually working our way over the whole soundboard, working in little circles. Until it's completely covered. And of course what you'll find is by the time you've worked right the way across the top, i.e. once I've done this side will be dry and you'll go over it again. And I would say that I think that you use a small pad and you use a small amount of polish. Everything that I do when I French polish is about using a small amount, and you can see why I use a small pad. I can get in areas like that under the fretboard extension. So I've been working on the top plate for a couple of minutes now. Keep going backwards and forwards, and as long as it feels dry almost straight away, i.e. do that, and that almost feels dry straight away. As long as it feels like that, I'll keep going. When I reach the stage where I feel that the polish itself is starting to get sticky and it's gripping the pad and stopping it from moving freely, I'll stop. Now people do use oil as a lubricant to stop that stickiness, and I will do that later on, but I never do it at these first stages, just in case the oil penetrates the polish, or I've missed a bit and the oil contaminates the wood. So whilst it's moving, I'm going to keep applying polish. So I can feel that the pads stop moving freely on the top plate. So what I'm going to do now is start working on one of the sides. If I tilt that over, hopefully you can see how the polish makes that grain pop. She's going to be a beauty. So I've been So I've been polishing now for about 25 minutes, I guess, and what I've been doing is the top plate, the head overlay, this side of the head, this half of the neck, and this side. And what's happening now is the whole thing is getting a bit sticky, and I'm kind of running out places to hold it. So I'm just going to stop now, let that rest for however long until I come over and touch it and it feels dry, and then I'll put a bit more on. The one thing that I've learned over the years about French polishing is that you can't say it's going to have 10 coats, it's going to take half an hour. The polish dictates to you. When it's done, it's done. So you've really got to have an empathy for the material that you're using. So and listen to what it's telling you. And it's telling me now, put the pad down and let me rest. I've had enough. So I shall listen. So here we are a bit later. The tackiness has gone off the top plate inside. So I'm going to flip it over now and start applying polish on the back and on this side, and also that whilst the mandolin's in this position, that will allow me to work on the back of the neck and the head. You can keep the pad in a jar whilst you're not using it, and that stops it from drying out. And if it dries out, personally I'll throw it away because you don't want it hard and crisp and scratching the surface. Right, let's have a look at this back. Quite exciting really. You want to be careful when you get to the edges. You want to work away from the edge. If you pull it back that way, then you'll get runs over the edge. And if you get big runs, then it leads to you sanding. So I'm trying to work, as I say, away from an edge. Is that pretty or what? Well, that's a pleasing first session of polishing. So I'll hang this up now and let that harden off and continue with it tomorrow. Well, here we are, 24 hours later, and that first application of French polish has hardened off nicely. The next thing to do is to cut back with 500 silicon carbide again, sanding it dry. And there's not a lot actually to sand. It's not like you've got runs and drips or whatever. You're just after sort of denibbing the surface. You might take off some bits of fibres of the pad, dust that's settled. In some areas you might have swirl marks from where you've been moving around with the cloth, and the texture of the cloth leaves some marks. So really it's a light sanding all the way over with the 500 silicon carbide. So off we go. And that's what we're after really, all the way over, just that amount. So once I've sanded the whole area with the silicon carbide paper, I'm just going over it with an abrasive pad. And then hoover it. So that's the back after the first layer of French polish and cutting back. So I'm after that look all over the instrument before I start putting more French polish on. So there we are. It's all been cut back and we're ready to put the second coat, second layer of polish onto the instrument. And when I say the second layer, the French polish will actually slightly dissolve the previous layer and it will bond to it. So eventually when the instrument's finished, you've got this one coherent layer of of shellac, and when you're sanding and you don't go through different layers and see kind of witness marks. So this whole process that you've seen so far in this video, applying the polish, cutting it back, I'm now going to repeat a number of times. And I don't know how many times that is. As I said to you, you've got to let the polish speak to you and tell you when it's done. So I will keep going until I think, yeah, I'm ready to move on to the next stage. And that next stage we'll look at in the next video. All right, cheers then, bye bye.